years of advocacy work. So it's not a one-day thing at the Capitol for Dyslexia Awareness Day. If you want to make changes, and sometimes changes have to be legislated, then you really need to work at the Capitol, at your state houses, and with the right people behind you. And that process really starts. I'm hoping that next session in Texas, which is 2 years from now, that y'all will be back with your own ideas for bills or already have bill language drafted so that the higher education issues that you're trying to address can be legislated. And so in order to do that effectively, you're right on track. You're starting well ahead of the session that you want to jump into. You really can start working on those issues now. There's no reason to wait. There's no reason to wait until you actually know exactly what you want to do either. You start building relationships now. And Lisa was able to join us, and Jennifer, of course, has been alongside our efforts for years. But the relationships start building now. Every single one of you have your own people that you know. You live in different areas of the country or the state of Texas, and you need to start getting to know who your members are and engaging with them, whether that's just simply, hey, I'm a constituent and I'm interested in literacy. I'd like to talk with your education staffer. Something very simple like that just opens the door for you to um, start conversations. And you want to become with them the expert. You want them to look to you as the person that they're going to want to go to if they hear anything that comes up about literacy in the state of Texas or whatever state you're trying to work within. And everybody can do that. I have zero credentialing like many of you have. I have very little on my educational resume, if we want to call it that. So it doesn't matter. It matters that you're going to, educate yourself in whatever way. I tried to do deep dives into dyslexia before I did open my mouth on it. But you all you're well ahead of where I am professionally. So when you go into meetings, you use what you have to open up conversations with people, and you start building relationships now. So that's important. I would say we can also along the way point you to people that you're going to want to look for people on certain types of committees. Now, committees change every session. They get appointed, your members get appointed to different committees every session. And you're going to really hope that your people that you're really getting close to are going to be appointed to higher ed and education issues so that when they're sitting on those, hearings that you've got somebody on that, group that's running the education issue that you want that's already aligned with you and is going to be your champion. You don't have to have somebody on the education committee to push your issue through. We certainly did not when we passed the Beckley-Wilson Act. It took us a couple years to get it passed, the legislation for dyslexia in our state. But what we did have was we had one very committed member that was willing to fight for us all along the way. So you're going to have to find that person that is willing to commit to your issue strongly. And hopefully you'll have one strong one, but more than that, as many people as you can get that are willing to commit to your issue. You need them because they're the ones that are going to get your issue over the finish line. It's not done. None of any of this is going to be done just by the group here or your supporters. You're going to have to make relationships with the legislators, their staff, and I'm going to branch out a little bit too. I would start researching even who do you think might oppose what you're trying to do, if anybody? Are there going to be groups that maybe don't want to make the changes that you may be envisioning for higher ed? And start having discussions with those groups soon. Educate them on why this is important to the state, how it may affect their, I'm just going to say membership, because technically, most people that oppose have some sort of position that they feel you're infringing on. And so you need to really kind of branch out and get to know the pond of people that you're going to be swimming with, for lack of a better way to say it. There's just many uh, angles to getting a bill passed. It's not straightforward. The simplest part of it probably is writing the bill itself, which seems weird because why should we be writing bills? But really, you can write a bill. You can talk to, it's probably best even Jennifer knows the ropes here. You're going to want to have bill language set probably, I would say by September or October, start having some idea of where in the higher ed code of law your issue lies and how you want to address it. And it can change. It doesn't have to be, the final, but you're going to, if you haven't already gotten that far, I don't know where you all are. You're going to want to probably by September, October, at least understand where in the education code you want to make a change for higher ed. Because then from that point, you're going to want to start talking to your legislators and start having dialogues with them. And you will need someone to sponsor the bill. So you're going to want to have somebody that's very comfortable with the IDA and what your referendum is, and they're going to champion your bill, at least get it authored for you. The sooner the better, because there's, 8 or 9,000 bills that get presented and only a handful of them make it across the finish line. And only, maybe 10% of the bills that get filed actually get hearings. So it's very competitive. So you want to start now. Or as soon as you can. Don't wait till the next session starts, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and what Robbi was saying before is that's why it's so important to have that representative or senator,
Yeah.
who is so passionate about it and is willing to dog everybody to get it where it needs to be and get it through the process. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to
Oh, no.
support that statement.
Yeah, no, and I don't think you're going to know who that person is right away until you start having talks with them. And they want to hear from you because they actually want to do things for their community, right? And so you sell them on your vision and you identify your problem and you let them know how urgent it is for the state to correct course, and you've got a solution. So you will find those champions. And I think personally what y'all are working towards, the little that I kind of know about it, which is, addressing higher education and teacher preparation programs, that may be too simplistic. I haven't been in your meetings, but that is something that's, absolutely needed and people will understand it. You've got to have a very targeted, simple message. Um, you're you're going to be dealing with people that know absolutely nothing about what you're talking about, even if they're on an education committee. It that's the part for me that's been the most challenging and yet the most hopeful in a sense, and also the most crazy is that you're really the expert and you're dealing with people that are changing state laws that maybe sometimes don't really know the problem that your law is addressing as much as you would hope that they would, right? But what they will have is they'll have faith in each and every one of you and you deserve it because you're experts and you've lived the problems that you're trying to fix. And that is the most important part, I think, of how you're going to change legislation is just knowing what your story is a problem for thousands of people in our state, if not more. And the impact on the kids in our state is, hard to even put into numbers because, as we know, illiteracy spills over far beyond the schoolhouse. So y- you've got a really good, um, you've got a very easy to identify problem that most people can relate to. If you learn, if you present it in a way that's very basic. And I think keeping your message basic is the most important thing to remember. Um, I don't know that I'm helping you, but I would not want to know, like, do you have any specific questions or I feel like that's a lot. It's a lot of little bits of information, but do you have questions about like what you should do or what I could help answer or anything like that? I would just love to hear.
Well, I think it was really spectacular that, you invited me to come and write something and testify at the meeting that you had. Um, I don't know if I just said that correctly. I didn't quite test.
Yes.
But anyway, that was very eye-opening for me because I hadn't heard adults like that before talking about their dyslexia and their reading difficulties in the system, and the fact that there were senators there or representatives also sharing their stories, and that it's a conflict for them, and they also seem to want to really change things and support the public school system, but there's also the other part of them where they have to support other things that are going on because there's so many different bills going on in the legislation. And how did those bills get there? Because it was very daunting to think after that day of all that testimony, what went on just in that one office where we were,
Yeah.
and then to hear the next day, oh, what's their big push now? Corporal punishment. I just couldn't. It was really exhausting, mentally
Yeah.
exhausting to think that, wow, how did that even get to the subject of where we are right now in our legislation? Uh,
Yes. It is to one thing to remember, it's not easy to pass a bill. There's thousands of issues going on, and you really have to believe in your message. And
And
stick,
people will tell you that it takes 3 tries before you get a bill passed, is typically,
yeah.
how that works. That you should not go and expect it to happen the first year. I mean, that would be
Oh,
fantastic. But like Robbi was saying, there's a lot of people that you have to educate as to the need and the urgency and all of that. And that takes time and that takes a big team. And it takes a lot of visits and a lot of legwork and a lot of meeting people and getting an audience with them. It's it's harder than it seems.
well, but I will say that you can get ahead of the curve because
Hmm.
um, many of us have done this already.
Hmm.
So, one of the most important things if that you can do now is get to know the people that may oppose your bill. You really need to break
Hmm.
down and try and talk to them about it. And so it's not so scary for them when it
Hmm.
comes up and they're going to start pushing back on it and they may not understand what you're trying to do. You want to play your cards a little close to your chest because you also don't want them to have like a wind on something that maybe they don't want and they might start to, figure out a way to oppose it. So, I mean, I think maybe um, just starting to have talks and conversations with individually, your allies, people, you all have, connections with people that are, like, I don't know if Sharon Vaughn's still, involved, Dr. Vaughn from University of Texas at Austin. But people like that kind of know what's going on, know maybe who might oppose some of the literacy things. You could even start talking with the Texas Education Agency. Their push for literacy instruction is very strong, and I'm thankful right now that the commissioner that we have currently, understands the importance for strong literacy instruction. And they also, at the TEA level, the agency, understand there's a teacher shortage problem with teachers that need to be retrained when they get out. So you may find that you might have some opportunities sooner than later, like this year, to start talking with the Texas Education Agency about some of your ideas. And a lot of times they're not supposed to author bills, but they're very helpful when it's something that they're interested in. So I think you're further along than not. I mean, I don't. I would like to say that I think you could do it in 1 year. One session there. If you start soon, you can't wait till the session starts. You have to
Well,
start.
but I think you're right also because of all the talk about literacy, like you said, and the
Yes.
TEA's interest in literacy. And, we've done a lot with dyslexia, the last two sessions. And I think there's a lot of much better educated people out there. And I
Yeah.
don't think that the push or the ask would be quite as large because of everything that's happened before. And to me, this is a natural next step, or an extension of the work that's already being done. If we're going to actually make this work, we've got to equip these teachers. That I think that should be very easy for people to see that connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely would need to continue the partnership with you, of course, with Decoding Dyslexia and with the Parent Coalition, because we are on the same page and
Yeah.
almost everything. I mean, we definitely would need to have that partnership going
Yeah.
moving forward, I think, as we acquire more members, as we formulate our bill.
How how far along are y'all on your bill planning, or who's do you have individuals that are taking on certain tasks, communication versus um outreach versus just networking? And there's four of us that I work there. I would consider everything that I've done in the last couple of years. There's three other women that I'm always like daily bouncing ideas off of, and we do things collaboratively. It's not always the most organized, but we have worked together for years, so it is very in our own way structured. Um, and you really need to have those kind of teams together, because to do the work that needs to be done with getting a bill finished and over the finish line, and all the different people that need to be talked to. I mean, you're dealing with people that have I don't want to say big egos, but for lack of a better word, it's politics. Okay, so it's a very different type of environment. And what I will say that they do value is if you can bring them a very simplified message with a very direct solution. So you're going to want, like, to have meetings between everybody here that you can settle on exactly what the problem is in a very simple form, and then exactly what you want them to do. You, you don't want to go to them with a problem and have no solution because someone else is going to come up with a solution. They're going to go to their other trusted, and then you need to go in with a solution that you want and you feel very comfortable about what your solution is and be able to defend your solution because there's going to be people that are going to press on it and say, well, what about, I don't know, maybe we could do it this way, or this group thinks we could do it a different way. And so you need to have data to back it up, which y'all have all that stuff, research to back it up. You're the number ones on that. So I don't think that they can argue with your research. But just um, I don't know how far along y'all are, but I'd like to set like a September sort of deadline for you guys to really kind of have your first message and your first solution. It doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be the Bill language, but do you think y'all are there yet, or where
I
are you with your
Well, that's our whole premise of the symposium that we're doing right now. We have,
good?
yes, that is our foundation for this effort. And so you saying that has sparked, we need to have exhibitor tables that are ready to come up with our message there. Possibly we could have that, the message of what we're trying to do. Because when is the next I mean, it's in 2 years, the next.
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years till a year and a half, really, till you need you're really ready to go. And you can tweak a little bit along the way. And you're gonna have to do little tweaks here and there. But but that's in a year, at this time next year, you should already know who you should have relationships built with your Senate members and your representatives. And you should try, I mean, let's just say, I'm just looking at if there's 10 of you, I'm sure there's more, but let's say there's 10. Each one of you should have, like, make it a goal to have a meeting with your representative at least one time between now and the end of the year. Just hello, I'm so and so, I'm Sarah, and I'm with the IDA, and we're working on literacy, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm a constituent, and we're concerned about higher education, and we've got some statistics on, teacher preparation programs, and then each one of you has to start doing that, and you're well equipped to do it because you're experts already. So but you need to get to know these people. And then from there, you need to start talking to other people. They might say, oh, well, Senator, such and such handles the higher ed issues. So why don't you go talk to their people? And then you'll start. So, you'll start getting directed to people generally, or of course we will support you. Um, but you're going to need your messaging so that when Mary Jane comes to town to visit her parents and, Jennifer's around, or, individually, you all have the same information that you're giving out. You're going to meetings, and you're just going to try and discuss with people with the same message over and over so that all these members start to hear, oh, yeah, I think I talked to someone from the IDA. All right. Oh, I remember them. And, yes, they were talking about this. And so your message is going to be the same thing over and over and over. Um, by this time next year, right now, you're going to have your people that are going to want to support you. At least you'll have a better understanding of which members are willing to, you know, at least direct you to the right people. If not, have somebody already that wants to work with you. So
So Rob,
you're
how
yeah.
many how many are working with you with decoding dyslexia? Is it just you, or did you say four? Four of you?
Well, So there's the tech, so Decoding Dyslexia started years ago.
Mhm.
Um, some of our local chapters sort of combined, and so there's now the Texas Dyslexia Coalition. There's probably, I would say, at least 20 different dyslexia groups in Texas that have really active Facebook kind of groups. And so within those, we've we've all huddled together under the coalition, and we're working on. So for me personally, um, there's four women that or three, and then Jennifer's, in and out. But there's three women that I daily talk to.
Well,
And
do you, I mean, this takes a lot of work. Am I wrong? And do you get paid, or you're just doing this out of to
yeah.
get in there and lobby and talk to these legislators?
Well, okay, so no, we don't get paid and we're not a nonprofit. So there's two things that we chose purposefully. One, being a nonprofit, there is some lobbying tech restrictions on how much time you can allocate as a body to lobbying. So you have to kind of watch that. I don't want to say it's 20%, but it's something around that part. But y'all do so much and there's so many members that I would find that you wouldn't have any problems with the lobbying part. Um, and no, we don't get paid to do it, and it is for me to get to where I am now. It is a full-time thing. I mean, I have dedicated my life to this, um, and that's not to say that you have to do that. But I'm just saying it takes commitment. It is not for the faint. It is not it, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. But you have a large support group behind you. So it's not, you just need to have your messaging about what you want. And then, hopefully it aligns with other people that are as passionate as you are that can then
So
support.
my other question, because Texas is huge.
Yes.
I mean, even Indiana, I I live in southern Indiana in a totally in central time zone. The rest of the state's in eastern time zone. Seriously, I'm in this little pocket. And to get to Indianapolis takes me 3 hours at least with a time zone change. I mean, so the best thing to do is to talk to your representative that's in your area and get to know them, the representatives and the senators, or
Yeah,
what? I mean, how are you going to get these people in Texas? That's huge.
I
To get
know.
to
Well,
us.
I do live in Austin, so it makes it a little bit easier for me. But the good thing is a lot of people nowadays Zoom. They do a lot of Zoom.
Oh,
So
well, that's good to know.
you can Zoom meet with people. You all are a professional organization and you have a name. And at least in our state, you have we lean on your research and your papers and your publications when we advocate. So you're you have a trusted and well-deserved presence. So you do not have to just talk to your local people, but it's good to do both. Okay. And you should find the people locally because they're your members. A lot of times your member will be hopefully in a position to do something for you, but they will also sometimes do more because you're one of their constituents. Um, if you also have every right and ability as the International Dyslexia Association to go to any member and talk to their education person and start having conversations about the urgency to get higher ed to turn out teachers that are already trained in the science of reading. Um, this data's been around for decades and it's been ignored in higher ed, and it's hurting the public education system in our state. I mean, that message right now is a very easy thing to talk to any of them and they will listen to you because they know it's a problem. So the thing is that you need to keep your, whatever your message is, keep it simple because you're going to deal, their staff, they're right out of college. I mean, a lot of these, they're all, you're dealing with their staff most of the time. The Senate, the Senate members generally have a little bit more staff and, you know, maybe more expertise. But you really need to keep it so simple that anybody that you talk to in that office is like, oh my God, there's a crisis in literacy. IDA's here to the rescue, and we're gonna help them, right? Like that needs to be like your, you know, call to action for them.
So is it a good idea to collaborate with other states and what they've been doing? Because we actually passed a law, a couple laws that has to do with pre-service teachers in the higher education universities, and they have to have so many hours of structured literacy
So,
before they graduate.
so can I jump in there, Robbie, real quick on that one?
Please.
I would say as far as um, you want to make sure that they understand your messaging and that it's really that your Robbie hits it 100%. These people have very short attention spans, and you have to have your elevator pitch down so well that you're coming in. She said it beautifully, where you say, "Here's the problem. This is how long the problem has been this way. This is how many people that it affects. And here are the solutions that we can provide and help." It's really about helping them look like the winner in all of this. When really all we're doing is what we've done every day that we get up and go to work, which is helping the kids.
But
Everybody on this call is kid first,
yeah,
and they're wanting to make sure that these kids get the services that they need. And our legislators, we have to get past the gatekeeper, like Robbie said. We have to be able to get in front of those legislators and get them to understand that you do have dyslexic kids in your district. You do have this issue in your district. You may not know it, but here it is. Here are the numbers. Here's what it looks like. And we're here to help.
But what I will say, Mary Jane brought up a really important thing, and Stephen is like such a good speaker too. So if you ever need somebody to go in and talk, he's pretty spot on. And there's not a lot of men that do this either. I will say that. So we need more of the dads and stuff. But Mary Jane, yes. So if you have bill language from other states, they always ask, well, are other states doing? What are other states doing? I mean, I've heard that all over the place. Now, so find that language and look at it and see, then analyze how does that apply in Texas? Because every state has different educational codes and laws. So, but if something's working in another state and it's legislated, then that's really valuable to have. Especially, I hate to say it, if it's a Republican state, and because we are, in a Republican-led state, it's not necessarily always going to have to be that way, but they tend to favor other red states' actions. So, yeah, absolutely. Find the bill.
Sorry, Robbie. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'll add on to what Robbie is saying. We were in New York. Dr. Meyer, was it a couple of years ago? 2 years ago?
Almost 3.
Almost 3 years ago. We went to New York for the Made by Dyslexia event when they did the grand opening of the Virgin Hotel. And when we had dinner with the chancellor of the New York school system, and I mean, just amazing people that we were there with. But what was amazing is they all looked at us, meaning my wife and I, because we're from Texas, And they're like, "Oh, you're from Texas? Y'all have it all figured out.
Mm.
What can we do to emulate you?" And as I go around the country and talk and meet with lawmakers and leaders of school systems, I find that more that people want to know what we're doing in Texas because they want to follow us.
But we're not
So we
doing
have to be
higher
the
ed.
leaders from the front.
We're not doing anything in higher ed right now,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned. So y'all are like leading the best charge you could lead.
So I'm gonna push back just a little bit. Because I feel like, and this is, I'm gonna just name where I'm coming from. I'm clinical faculty at a university in a teacher prep program. And I will say, we are doing our darndest to bring the science of reading into our teacher preparation program. So I feel like sometimes we have to think about what is it that we really want to say, because I know like the work that I'm doing on my campus in my teacher prep program, and the work that my entire department is doing to push the science of reading and the teaching of structured literacy. So I just want to be very careful also, like
Yeah.
in meetings like this, the way we talk, because this really hurts my heart to hear higher ed generalized.
Yeah.
So I needed just to come off and say something.
Dr. Hope, I appreciate what you're saying, and I can empathize with what you're saying. But coming from a product of a system that failed the students here in Texas, I can tell you that we have done a real heavy push into advocacy, into letting people understand what the problem is and where really we're trying to get everybody to understand that here is this is what dyslexia is, this is what it looks like, and here is what it looks like to not have remediation. And the more and more I see and talk to leaders, I start seeing that it's pushing more and more into the higher ed. And I will tell you, thank you so much from a dyslexic, from a high school dropout, that we have professors like yourself that breathe this love and compassion into our pre-service teachers, and that they will come out of college understanding that we dyslexics, we are trying hard. We are out there doing everything that we can do from ourselves. We are putting the effort in, and that our teachers are going to become the advocates that we need and have become.
So then my push is going to be this, because I'll tell you, I had 13 undergrads graduating this year in my course, which focuses on the science of reading. So that's not a lot of prepared teachers going out into the workforce. You mentioned a teacher shortage. So I think we also need to consider what are the other avenues by which people are getting in classrooms, alternative certification programs, charter schools that don't even have to have certified teachers are allowed to be. I mean, so there are other avenues by which unprepared people in the role of teacher are providing, and I'm going to use air quotes, literacy instruction. So I think like having a laser focus on higher ed only hits, like when I'm talking about 13 graduates, that is not even a drop in the pond, you know?
You're so right, Dr. Hope. And first of all, I want to thank you. Generally speaking, I work in terms of legislation. So I work in terms, my brain works in terms of what does the law say that has to be done in the state. And so it's not that there aren't going to be educators and, professors that are already doing what you would want them to do. I just look at it from a global, like, what is the state of Texas requiring that teachers have when they come out? So it's, I, I brought up Dr. Vaughn before, and if, I don't know how many people know her, but she's a good friend of mine, and I mean, she's quite frankly gets disgusted because she all day long can, testify and talk and this and that, and she's got her own colleagues on her campus that she said just like don't like they're rude to her, so it's like I just hear these stories about such resistance to what the science of reading is all about that I feel like it is time to legislate it so that it's clear that these colleges, because they're not going to change fast enough to do what you're doing, Dr. Ho. And I feel like you're absolutely right. The pre-service teachers, that totally blew over my head until you brought it down so clearly. The teachers that are the uncertain, getting alternate certifications, that can be legislated too. I mean, so like you need to put the guardrails on the teaching profession. And so that's why your bill language and your messaging, try and focus in. These are the kinds of talks that we have as in our internal group. We don't agree on everything at first, or we all have different perspectives, or we maybe push back on, little issues that come up that are important until we get it right. So, but I would think all these types of discussions and these ideas need to start, coming out from all of you, and you need to iron them out because then your messaging's going to be strong, on target, and it's going to have the desired effect. Because you're right, Dr. Hope, it is not just from the higher ed. You're spot on. It's a bigger problem than that. But I feel like you're legislating it is the best route because then you target the state. A lot of these, you know, avenues to become a teacher, they're not going to change what they're doing unless they have to do it. So,
And I think we've done a good job in terms of like special education lately. You know what I mean? Like in terms of taking away the special ed supplemental, moving back to like this. Like I think that type of requirement coming as far as like certification to teach in special education, we have done a much better job at. And like, how do we fold that same type of requirement in to any teacher that teaches literacy, right? Because if even a charter school, you have to be special education certified to be in a special education classroom teaching, to be a teacher.
they should have to know how to teach literacy too.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
The special,
If they were in my class, they do.
right.
So
Well, I know you are the rare. I mean, if they were all you, we wouldn't need legislation, right? So,
And I
yeah.
think one of the really important, Dr. Hope, you're going to know this. After 19 years in teaching and teacher preparation programs in the state of Tennessee, our programs were so saturated and so long, and so many hours were required of our pre-service teachers because there are so many laws and so many requirements that nothing is going to get into those programs unless it is legislated.
Right.
It has to be there, the specificity of the target. I heard lots of great stuff about alternate routes to certification, as well as in undergrad, graduate, etc. The specificity of where you're putting that in so that it does target every licensure and every pre-service teacher and every alternative route is going to be really critical. But ensuring that it is, Dr. Hope, like you said, folded in there into those program requirements. So so that it gets taught, because we're
Right.
out there and we as higher education professionals and as professors, we're out there working so hard and with all our heart, and we want to teach all these wonderful things that we know. We want to pass this on, but there is literally not an extra minute in that classroom sometimes. And the only way to get this done is to have just this wonderful, really specific language built into the law in order to make sure that it's happening everywhere.
You got it.
To me, that makes sense in my brain. I think just listening to everybody talk about higher ed, higher ed, higher ed. And I mean, if you're there with Sharon Vaughn, then you know what she's trying to do at UT.
Yeah.
You know, I'm at U of H with Christy Santee and David Francis and
Yeah.
Jeremy Misiak and all of those folks. So like, I know what we're trying to do. So I feel like it's not everywhere. And I understand, Dr. Meyer, the need to have it codified in the language of the law, but it also has to go beyond just what we think of as traditional higher ed or traditional teacher preparation programs, or we've given our folks loopholes to be able to still employ people that are not prepared to teach literacy to children.
Absolutely. And I think organizations like Teach for America, for example, have to be part of those targets. Some of these really big organizations that support those alternative routes.
We have a huge one here, Texas Teach for Tomorrow or something like Texas Tomorrow. I mean, that it's a very big ACP mill, you know? And so like thinking about how do somebody mentioned guardrails earlier. How do we put the guardrails on any of these programs so that people coming out are really well qualified, highly qualified to teach literacy?
And then one of the additional things that really is growing is the private for-profit education institutions that that are again brand new education institutions popping up a dime a dozen almost at this point, and getting people into the classroom, and with the goal of addressing teacher shortage. So they're churning people through these programs as quickly as they can in order, of course, for them to make money, but then the people going into the classroom from these programs are, again, their heart's there, but they're just not prepared.
Yeah.
I'm also seeing a lot of the newer teachers that I'm having to sit in ARD meetings with, well, they're not confident enough in their advocacy for the child to take up for the child or to be that advocate for the child. Not all of our kids, especially with 5.5 million kids in our school system, not all of our kids have strong advocates like Robbi Cooper. You know, not all of our kids have, advocates that we can call Decoding Dyslexia or any other of the Dyslexia Coalition group, and find these really strong advocates to come in and help our parents get the right services for our kids. And the more and more I see teachers and admins be able to break stride with the district admin group, which I know that's a whole nother story, right? But when they have the information, they have the power to say this isn't right, along with the parents having the power to say this isn't right. We're all empowering each other to make sure, again, that we're level setting this, that the only reason why we're in this meeting today is to provide support for that child. Everybody else's attitude, everybody else's perspective, and all that other stuff goes to the wayside, because what we need to do is make sure that that child is okay and that they're going to be the best. They have the opportunity to be the best version of themselves. So the more that we can push to that, I think that we'll be covering all of our bases. And the reason why we're pushing more into the higher ed, I think it right now, is because from the advocacy point of view, we feel like we have done so much work trying to educate our teachers and our campus administrators to get them to see what we're trying to accomplish. And it's almost feeling like we've exhausted that level, like we've talked to all those people. So what do we do now? We need to go to the next highest group up, which would be the higher ed. And if we can have these teachers coming in prepared to stand up and be that advocate for those children that the parents most of the time can't be or don't have the skills to be, I should say it that way, the better off our kids are gonna be. Does that make sense?
But I think you're talking about two different issues, right? You're talking about teacher preparedness, and they're coming in with the tools and the knowledge and the skills to be able to teach structured literacy, or to be able to identify those red flags and get students identified sooner rather than later so that they're getting what they need. And then you're also talking about a teacher's, and I think about my new babies that are graduating in May, going out into their new school and feeling confident enough to rock the boat and, you know, say something that might not yield a very good school year for them, even though they're doing everything within the four walls of their classroom that they can to support the kids. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like there's so many layers to this.
That's kind of where we're at from the parents' perspective also, because we want to support our teachers. We want the teachers to be able to do all of the wonderful things that they've been trained to do, right? So these teachers are coming out or coming into this profession for the love of it. They're not coming in as to get money, right? I've never met a teacher, a brand new pre-service teacher that goes, oh, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to make $1 million. You might as well just give it up because that ain't going to happen.
Okay,
we don't make it as professors either. So, like,
so the more that we can get the pre-service teachers coming in to understand that, number one, partnering with the parents, we're going to be able to do 100 times more and push the administration into a position of providing services that need to be done and supporting our teachers. I tell teachers all the time, I even tell admins all the way up to superintendent, use me as a parent to be the spokesperson, because I can come into a school board meeting and say all kinds of things that you as a teacher cannot say.
Mhm.
And
Okay,
I will be the voice.
Stephen, I'm going to interrupt for a second. Two things, because I have to hop off soon too, and I know y'all have to, but that your push for legislation, there's a lot of topics that have been brought up, and you need to hone down and decide what it's going to be. Focus on it, and it can always grow as the session builds. So you can always add to it, but you're going to want to you need to listen and have more dialogue and decide where y'all collectively want to target, because it is not easy to get laws passed. So any crack in your messaging is going to be easy for someone to tear down your messaging. So I don't want to make it so dire like that, but this is a process you're going to step into, and it just needs to be, you're ahead of the game. Just be well thought through. As Mary Jane brought up, there is legislation in other states. Start looking at that. See how it applies to what y'all want to do in Texas. And then anything that we can do to help you, we're always here to help. So our legislative session's almost over. Um, it'll be refreshing, quite honestly. It's crazy to go through what we've gone through this session, but to know that for me to know that there's people that are working on, you know, the teacher training end of it, wherever that ends up being. So it's, you know, you've got us as allies, I'm sure. Just make sure your messaging is very clear and very precise, and you have the research to back it up. And start talking to these Teach for Americas. You know, you brought those groups up. Those are the groups that are going to try and push back. So you're going to want to try and understand and educate them on what you're trying to do, and also try and think through any ways that you can simplify what you're trying to do. Like Guinevere brought up the timing that you have available,
Genevieve.
Genevieve.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, it's important to realize that. So whatever you're trying to legislate, make sure that you've got, you know, it's simple enough that that it's implemented. Because it's one thing to pass a law, I can tell you to have it implemented is going to be just as challenging. So, but I am so grateful. You have no idea how grateful I am to hear that you're working on such big ideas and big issues that are so important to our kids in the classroom and the teachers that support them. So, um, you know, I don't know if I can do anything for any of you. Lisa's, you're more than welcome to share my contact information with any of you, and I am signed up for your conference, so I can't wait to at U of H, right? So
Yeah.
I can't wait
Yeah,
to see
we're,
all
we're
that.
we're sending out lots of letters, personal letters, invites. So you'll be getting that also in
Yeah,
addition. But yeah, we have lists of legislators that we're personally inviting. We're doing, you know, we are at a foundational stage, but it's a very strong stage and the momentum is here. And I think that I think this team, you know, a lot of us can get on the same, I think we have the same message.
yeah.
Feel that we do. You know, and we certainly I love all my college professors. I am a teacher. I stayed at, you know, master's level, but that was my career path. And I'm happy because I had some of the top notch. And then, so there is a difference between a good, solid education program and one that is not. And then this whole Texas for Teach for Tomorrow has ruined our system. It absolutely, couldn't believe that teachers were coming in and then they were asking the seasoned teachers to give them their student teaching while you're also teaching. You know, that it's incredible what's happened. So yeah, we're on, I mean, no, we are at a good spot getting better programs and getting those programs recognized because you're right. Even when we were at the conference in IDA in Dallas, there were plenty of business people from there. In fact, people who were in very rich, very rich people who were wanting to open up schools and were coming to look at some of the schools here in Austin. They want to open up programs. They're looking at the Alpha School to see how they can slide in there and help the teacher problem. Isn't that interesting?
Well, they probably knew the ESAs were going to pass
Yeah,
the educational savings accounts, and they're just trying to get
that
ready for that privatization of our public school system. That's a whole different conversation.
is,
I'm sorry, I want to end
yeah.
on that note.
Well,
I
thank
need to hop off,
you.
but thank you so much, everybody, and I'm just I'm
Thank
just rooting for you, and I'm here for you.
you.
So,
Thank you, Robbie.
yeah, okay,
Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you again for sure. I could stay on for 5 more minutes if anyone needs to hash out something, especially our symposium. Stay on. You're going to be doing. So
I
yeah,
can stay on.
okay. Yeah. What should we do about where are we? Dr. Hope, let's
So I feel like all of our speakers are confirmed. Yes.
yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Locations confirmed.
Mhm.
U of H catering is way too expensive and not even delicious.
Or I'm looking at just doing
Did you say
oh
lunches from Jason's Deli? Is
yes,
that what you said?
yes,
That's perfect.
yeah.
That's perfect.
And having them do something for breakfast, so we have the food. I'll get that situated.
I am reaching out to, I know Amy and Amy from Central Arkansas and I are on the same page in terms of like, we're just waiting for the end of the semester and then we'll work together to put our presentation together. I saw the list of people that are getting invitations. Do you need, what do
More.
you need in terms of more university people?
I need more university people to send
Okay.
out contacts.
Okay.
Some are bouncing back. So yeah, I haven't reached out to even local ones. So yeah, I need a lot. I need help with that. And then
Yeah,
we're just
even
getting our
some
letter.
folks over at
Yeah.
Houston Christian, TSC, I mean, even just like right in our backyard.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then Southwest, it's not Southwest Texas anymore. What is it? Texas State.
Some contacts there, even some good contacts from Trinity, in the San Antonio area.
Okay.
Anyone that has
Incarnate Word, University of the Incarnate Word, UTSA, like all of that.
all of
Yeah.
those would be fantastic. Even ACC.
I have to say that when we did it, we have somebody in Indiana Department of Education. He actually is like, I don't know, the senior person for higher education. And every time he had a meeting with the universities, he mentioned our symposium. So he was able to get the word out. Just to let you know that that really helped tremendously to get the word out. And then we had a flyer that we sent on social media and try to get to all the universities so that they could send at least one person to the symposium. And that helped a lot too. We also did Eventbrite, and that what I liked about that, I think I mentioned to Lisa that what I liked about it is that when people signed up, it was free, but when they signed up, well, I guess you're charging, but when they signed up, I had their name and their email, and I could copy paste it into a spreadsheet, and that has come back tenfold for us to be able to have that contact. Couple things that I noticed when we did it. Um, Mary Winterston, everybody was ready to listen to her. That was huge because she has all the information about how to get the IDA accreditation and the specifics of it. So we had our assistant secretary of education speak, and she was great because she talked about the law and what was needed for the pre-service teachers in the universities. But and people were really tuned into her. The other people depended. It's like, well, they sort of semi-listened. It just depended on if they're able to give enough information on what courses they're offering in the universities in order to meet the requirements for the IDA accreditation. Then people will tend to listen. Uh, and then Mary Reniston, of course, went over those 5 areas that you need to really target in order to get the accreditation, and people were glued to that. So those are just some of the things that I observed. And yes, we had food, but we had more snacks than we had. You got to have food. We had some good snacks. Okay.
I know y'all don't know me very well yet, but I'd love to pitch in to speak to whatever. I'd love to. I know I'm early in my journey with this a little bit.
Dr. Meyer is now on the board for Empower Dyslexia. And I mean, I just met Lisa this last weekend or last week in Austin. But Empower Dyslexia is a podcast, and it's been around since 2019, 18. And we go out and provide information not only to our parents, but educators and lawmakers. And we've really, and don't take offense to anybody that, but we've gone out and really sought out the who's who of the dyslexia world to interview, because we want those people to be able to speak directly to our parents, so our parents understand exactly what to say when they get into these ARD meetings. And the more that we can help that, the more that we can help our pre-service teachers, the more that we can help our higher education professors, and drive new and needed laws.
Would you be able to set up a
What
pod?
school are you with? What university?
If you want us to do a podcast from Austin, I can bring my cameras and equipment down there. I mean, whatever you need. And Dr. Meyer it has an amazing resume when it comes to advocacy and pre-teacher, pre-service teacher education. I'll let her speak more to that. But anything that we can do from Empower Dyslexia, we're here to help.
Well, Cynthia Edwards has really good information that she's sharing with me, and I wish you'd share there. But yeah, we need to speak to TEA. And Cindy, why don't you say who you are?
I can't. Hi. I work for TPI US, a Teacher Preparation Inspection USA, and we've been around for it'll be 15 years this summer. And I've been with them for 15 years since inception. And we are now working with TEA. I can't tell you much more than that because it's a pilot, but we go in and we are looking at their chosen EPPs, and the ones that they've chosen, and looking at everything. We're looking at all the curriculum. We look at teaching methods, and we look at the program and how the leadership program is taking care of business so that things are moving forward the way they should. We're not focused on literacy, but it is part of our framework. TEA is very interested. We started with TEA 15 years ago, and then leadership changes, as most DOEs, as well, DOEs change leadership constantly across the country. And so it changed, and they did, after 2-3 years, they didn't want to have anything to do with this. But we have pretty much reviewed EPPs across the country, almost every state. Indiana is our most recent one. It's all literacy. Massachusetts is all literacy. Arkansas is all literacy. Florida is everything. But the all literacy ones are all legislative driven. And the governor is in on the top of it. So I highly recommend we have our deep conversations with TEA, get in with the governor. We know how this governor works. He says he wants something, it will happen. But you have to have data. Everything has to be data driven, and it has to be very succinct. We have to have a very narrow focus, then we can broaden it. But I would love to be in on this, but I can only do so much because I'm pretty busy with what I do now. But I've seen it happen, and I've seen states change across this country. Now, some of them have, like in Indiana, in 2023, the legislator said, we are going to have science of reading across the board. Every single EPP will teach the science of reading, and they will use one of these 3 training sessions. So they chose keys to literacy, most of them. Some chose letters. Then they said, first, we will have all our EPPs that have to provide very explicit, they're very laid out. What will the science of reading be? They use the KPS, most of them, along with their Indiana standards. And they just do a crosswalk for every one of their courses to ensure they're covering everything. Then now, this next year, every single teacher in the district K-5 must have gone through the 80 hours of Keys to Literacy, or an alternative, which would be, I forget right now, it's a really good one as well, but there's so many different literacy programs out there. Some are good, some not so good. But this one is good. So they're having to go through this without a stipend, by the way. They were offering a stipend. So it came on really quick. They're very stressed. I am now on a technical assistance team, so I've gone through and reviewed many of the programs up in Indiana, EPPs, and now I'm coming in and helping them fix what needs to be fixed, as a collaboration, of course. But it's happening, and they're happy. They weren't happy at first. We walk in and they wanted to kill us because this was something that was not their choice. They were all balanced literacy. They were whole language. They were like Texas. And it is, they are very happy now. They know they need to change, and they want to be like Mississippi. I don't know if you guys, one of the big things you need to use is the current NAEP scores. They just came out. These are not good scores. That needs to be your driver. Data, data, data. And it can't just be dyslexia. I'm sorry, but I mean, I was a cult, became a language therapist in one of the first 4 in Austin, Texas in the 80s. So I believe in it, but it has to be all students. If we can't teach 95% of our students, then literacy effectively, and so that they can be proficient, if not close to proficient readers, then we're not doing our job. And that's how we have to drive it. So I'm very passionate about it. That's why I kept quiet, because I will talk forever about it. But you guys are doing the right thing. Just keep it focused, and I'll help whenever I can.
I want to mention too that we talk a lot about the pre-service teachers, but the veteran teachers need to. I mean, when I went through college, it was balanced literacy. It was whole language. I didn't listen to it. I ended up getting Ord Gillingham Slingerland trained.
Yeah. So Mary Jane, every teacher
Right, and that's what we
has
did
to
in
be trained.
Indiana.
Yes.
Kindergarten through 5th grade, they had to get the
Right.
80 hours of asynchronous, synchronous training.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to offer asynchronous and synchronous. And by the way, we do look at every single EPP, whether it's alternative certification, residency, or traditional. And there's no question that we would leave one out.
Mary Jane, I was part of the Keys to Literacy team that did some of the training a couple summers ago. It was an undertaking.
Yes, they had to actually add a lot in order for Indiana to choose Keys to Literacy for the 80 hours. They had to add a lot to it. And I'm not sure what else is the alternative right now. All I've heard is that you have to go through the Keys to Literacy. But
yeah, there's another one I wish I could remember.
I can't.
Letters is one, and I was a national letters trainer. I was one of the ones that went into Mississippi and started that whole project. But letters is good too, but it teaches you why you teach reading that way, but it's not teaching you how to teach. So you have to have good, strong mentors out there. You can't just go through training and voila, you've got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you 150%. Okay.